Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Dan Hogancamp. Dan Hogancamp is the Vice President of Ecommerce for alphabroder, parent company of Threadsy, one of the nation's largest distributors of imprintable blank apparel and hard goods. He provides executive leadership for Threadsy.com, a leading retailer of blank apparel online. He has been at alphabroder since 2019 and has served in a variety of leadership roles spanning finance, strategy, and now e-commerce. Prior to joining alphabroder, Hogancamp spent 13 years in consulting. Well, good afternoon, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Brian. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you again for jumping on. And I love working with folks around the world, 40 countries and growing every single day. Just inspires me. Again, this is my passion. So thank you again for jumping on. And Dan, we're going to jump right into these questions. You've got quite the career in strategy, business, a senior executive. You're currently the VP of e-commerce for alphabroder, which is the parent company of Threadsy. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
Sure. I think there's a few things here. I mean, one is in terms of there being some great secret to career growth. I think it comes down to a couple of things. One, you've got to have an idea where it is you want to go. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll always know exactly the path you're going to take or exactly kind of how you're going to get there. But having a general idea really helps. For me, so I kind of came up through the consulting world. I spent the first 13 years of my career in consulting. And I had realized fairly quickly that I didn't love it. And I liked the exposure. I liked getting to work with a lot of different companies. And I know that's a passion that you share as well in terms of interacting with folks and all kinds of different business leaders. The challenge for me was that I didn't feel like I was really adding value and hadn't had an opportunity to really put down roots. And so for me, it became fairly early on in that kind of segment of my career that I was building towards getting somewhere else, right? And specifically getting somewhere where I would have an opportunity to grow into a leadership role, where I'd have an opportunity to kind of put down roots and really make a contribution and add value. And so that took a couple of forms for me. One was education, right? I knew that to get where I needed to get, I'd probably need an MBA. And so, that was a nights and weekends thing, right? Where those were busy days, busy travel days, but worth the kind of temporary sacrifice and challenge over 2 years to put in place a block that I knew I was going to need going forward. And there were a bunch of other things like that too, in terms of skill acquisition and all of that. So I think that if there's one thing that I always share with folks when talking about the potential for career growth, it's just that, look, the decisions you make today are going to matter, right? They're going to matter. They're going to position you for the next thing. And so it's worth the sacrifice today. It's worth the challenges today. It's worth being very deliberate about how you spend your time and resources. And asking the question whether your allocation of those time and resources is really going to get you to where you want to go.
Thank you, Dan, for sharing. And you're absolutely right. You sometimes get stuck, or you're trying to find yourself, or you're just trying to make something that is, more applicable in your life or your career, and you've got to make those changes. So I appreciate you sharing your particular story. And Dan, what sets your company apart as a distributor in the promotional products industry?
I think for us, it's a commitment to developing and kind of executing on a really differentiating customer experience. And, like that has a bunch of meanings, right? And for us, like we sell products that other distributors sell. We have DCs where other distributors have DCs, and so how do you develop competitive advantage? How do you develop something, a set of capabilities that differentiate you from your competition when you're selling the same products and by and large and offer kind of the same logistical footprint? And for us, it really comes down to the customer experience. And so looking kind of front to end, when a customer interacts with alphabroder, how are they finding that experience? How easy is it for them to do the things they need to do? Because really what alphabroder does is facilitate. We're a B2B company. And so we're providing blank apparel to screen printers, to promotional products distributors, to folks that are doing a value add process and then selling it to a customer. And so for us, it's like, what matters for our customer? Well, it could be speed that they get the product. It could be ease of ordering. It could be the ability to consolidate orders and do it in a way that minimizes their freight expense, right? There's all these kinds of issues. And for us, it's really just become a matter of really looking, whether that's we have internal resources that are completely dedicated to studying, analyzing, and improving on the customer experience. We leverage outside resources in terms of focus groups and social listening and all kinds of tools that way to really understand what it is that matters to our customers so that we can deliver there. Now, on the threadsy.com side, and I think, we'll talk more about this, but alphabroder is B2B. We have a kind of child company called threadsy.com that is a B2C property and or website. And so that's a much more of a retail experience. It's for that smaller hobbyist. It's for that smaller screen printer who maybe isn't large enough to benefit from a true kind of wholesaler distributor relationship. But they do need fast shipping. They do need great pricing. They do need the ability to search a bunch of products easily. And so that's where, again, on the threadsy.com side, it's a little bit different, but again, it all centers around the customer experience. How easy is our website to navigate? What do we have in inventory? Do we have the right products in place? How are we interacting with a customer when they have issues? So it's all these kind of things. And I think, look, in any kind of business where you don't have a product that is highly differentiated and in demand, customer experience is almost always going to be the answer, right? In terms of how you can develop customer loyalty and take and maintain market share and grow your business.
Absolutely. And we've talked a lot about this on this show, is that customer experience is really key to the success of your business and growing, keeping market share. So I appreciate the share. So Dan, are you leveraging any new or emerging technologies within your company? And if not, maybe you found a cool tool or app that you have found really useful.
Yeah, for us, I think there's a couple of tools that are pretty standard now. I think the first is, how do you communicate with teams that are increasingly remote or at least hybrid, right? And so for threadsy.com, for instance, we have a team that's in Austin, but we've also got people that are in New York and Dallas and in Philadelphia, and it's a highly kind of agile. It's a startup type atmosphere, and so it's highly agile and highly collaborative. And how do you find ways to kind of really bring the team together to make sure that, one, you're maintaining the level of connectedness that you need for kind of highly creative, driven, agile type people, right? Which is what we're comprised of. And I think in that we're using a lot of the same kind of tools that everyone is in terms of leveraging Teams and video chat and those kind of things. But I think the way that we're using it, we have a cameras on requirement, right, for all the meetings with Threadsy. And it's not a hard requirement. If you happen to be in a situation where you really can't have your camera on, that's fine. But I think it's a really simple thing, but it's a way that ensures that every day you're seeing these people that you're building this business with. You're seeing, you get that read of body language. You're finding ways to communicate that are more efficient than just doing email or calls. I think the other thing is we make heavy use of the kind of chat capabilities that we have internally. And so there's a bunch of different apps for that, obviously. But I mean, there's an ongoing chat throughout the day. And, we're not super formal about it. There's emojis in there. There's GIFs in there. There's all that kind of stuff. But the point is, how do we maintain, even though we're separated and remote, this kind of tight level of connectedness within the team that's required to drive innovation and drive, the kind of high performance that we need in that group. And, we're doing some other things in terms of how we kind of watch the way our customers are interacting with our site, finding those pain points where they might be getting to a spot and, either bouncing off the site or finding it difficult to find the product they need or having issues when they add it to our cart. And so there's a bunch of kind of tools there that we're utilizing to really understand pathways through our site and make sure that we're reducing all the friction that we can in terms of getting that customer what they ultimately want, which is a great deal on a great product. So I think, those are a few things. We've got some other stuff that we're working with in terms of machine learning and artificial intelligence to just help us process really large amounts of data, which is, we have a huge SKU count and a lot of customers. And so there's just all of these kind of ways to leverage what we do really well in terms of data collection and understanding, transaction data and all that kind of stuff, but making sure that we're able to apply it in a way that, again, can feed back to a better and lower friction customer experience. So I think those are a few things. I mean, without getting into real specifics, I mean, that's just some tools that we've used to leverage in our business that, one, help us as a team be high performing, and two, help us provide and kind of identify, these friction points for customers so that we can remove them and make it a great experience.
Awesome. Thank you again, Dan. And we're a technology platform here, so we'd like to dive into a little bit of that, but I appreciate you sharing that. That's amazing. And Dan, last question here. Can you share something from your career experience that might be helpful for those looking to grow their career in either executive leadership or strategy?
Yeah, I think there's two things really. One is I always recommend that you find a mentor. And, I've benefited from a number of mentors in my career. Sometimes those are long-term relationships, right? That will span, employment at a particular company or number of companies. I've got a couple of those. Sometimes those are just, within the company you're in, and they might be kind of a few years or whatever, but there's just really something about finding folks that have made their way in your specific industry or in your company and understand all of these dynamics in terms of how to move forward. And that could be, where are the opportunities? Where should I invest my time? Where should I kind of show some extra initiative in terms of getting involved in special projects or those kind of things, right? It could be, how do you navigate relationships within the company? And are there certain folks that it's just really good to be closer to? I think those things matter. And I think what you'll find too is that even though, everybody is busy, that by and large, folks are willing to engage in those relationships. They want to help someone along. And so I think that's kind of point number one is find a mentor. And, I think, or two. And one, it's going to be great for your personal network. Two, it's going to be great for helping to identify kind of areas you need to work on. And that kind of dovetails into the second piece, which is, it's always what you're doing today is always about what you're going to have the opportunity to do tomorrow. And we touched on this a little bit in the call earlier, but I mean, really, I think organize your activities and your efforts today around where you want to be tomorrow. And look, that you're going to have a job you need to do. And so it's not like you can spend 100% of your time prepping for the future, but you can find some time to do that. Right. And whether that's building a new skill, whether that's reading, consuming information, learning, whether that's attending, on a networking group a couple times a month or whatever it is, you've got to kind of figure that out for yourself about like, what do I need? And what do I need in my toolbox to move forward to the place I want to move to? And then you've got to spend the time. You've got to spend the time. You've got to decide today, instead of, doing X, Y, or Z, right? That you're going to devote that time to building your kind of career path and where you want to go next. And, I really believe that, like, look, there is some luck in this, right? There is getting into opportunities where you can grow. But I think more than that, when you can demonstrate that you can add value to any organization, opportunities are going to present themselves. And then it's just a matter of, taking the extra time and putting in the extra work and availing yourself of those opportunities. And I think what you'll find over time is that performing well in those opportunities will open up other opportunities. And then you'll find that your kind of spheres of influence, your ability to take on new challenges that are more exciting and challenging to you, all of that's going to grow. But it does require effort and work and focus and planning. And so, I think that's the biggest kind of piece of advice that I always give when I'm talking to folks about career development is just, look, there's some things you can't control, but there's a lot of things you can, and maximize on those items.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Everybody's got a unique story, and they've traversed their career sometimes across many industries and flip-flopped. But this is just totally amazing that you can share this with our audience. So Dan, it was a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Great to meet you, Brian. And I look forward to that.
Bye for now.